Abstraction is without a doubt the scariest thing the characters in Digital Circus have to deal with, because in a world where you can't really die through old age or physical injury, going through abstraction is the closest thing to a death-like experience someone can have in there. And it seems like an extremely painful one to go through that, as far as we're aware right now, has no proper way of being reversed or undone. The other reason that makes abstraction so scary is the fact that it can still happen to any of them. They technically do have control over whether it happens to them or not, but in a place like the Digital Circus, it can be extremely hard for even the toughest people to keep it together. Case in point, Kaufmo the Clown. Rest in peace, a real one. Kane does try to do what he believes is best to keep things in line, but even then his unintentional blunders can put lots of mental strain on them too, which could speed up a potential abstraction process. It's extremely nerve-wracking. So I wanted to use this video as, for lack of a better phrasing, ranking video of who's least likely to most likely to abstract out of the main circus members. Kane, of course, not included since he's an AI ringmaster. You parasites! I want to make it clear that me listing this video out doesn't mean I believe every single character will abstract. It's more so based around the potential that it could happen to them based on their personalities, interactions with other characters, and a few other subtleties sprinkled in throughout the first 2 episodes. It's very possible the crew will decide to make none of these characters abstract down the line too. I just felt like throwing my 2 cents in on the matter. Real quick, I want to lay out everything important we do know about abstraction just to give everyone a better idea on how it exactly works. Abstraction is caused when a former human of the Digital Circus's mental state becomes so broken that their bodies transform into a black, distorted creature with creepy eyes all over their new bodies. They also lose the ability to speak and are much more violent in nature. Kaufmo relentlessly attacking Ratha and even tried going after Pomy. The damage he can inflict on others seemed to be one of the few cases of other circus members being able to feel physical pain outside of abstracting themselves, like Ratha's entire body glitching and Pomy's hand being a bit fucked up too. Kane is able to cure the glitched effects from those who have been injured by an abstracted character, but cannot cure the abstracted character, with the only option is having them placed in a dark, like, void room under the map, where they have to spend the rest of their days in a death-like state. Okay, now that we got that covered, let's just get into it. Our main character, Pomy, the little pathetic yet adorable jester, probably isn't going to abstract at all, to be honest. With her, you know, being the main character and all, it just wouldn't really make much sense for her to actually go through abstraction with it being a death equivalent. Granted, there have been times in other serialized shows where main characters have died or went through death-like experiences, yet were able to come back. This happened to both Anne Boonchoy from Amphibia and Luz Noceda from the Owl House. However, those felt like very special cases where it not only happened at the very end of their respective series, but came back through the means of a mysterious outside force who had special powers to bring them back to life. As of right now, there is no kind of confirmed way for abstraction to be undone. So if Pomy were to abstract, it would have to be one of those things where she was somehow able to get out of it by a currently unknown method. And me personally, it feels like it would be more interesting if Pomy had to deal with one of her new friends abstracting after becoming closer with them. It would be a good way to test her resolve to keep moving forward in this new life, or maybe find a way to reverse this horrible process to save them. For the second least likely, I'd have to give it to Jax, to be honest. Even not taking the whole NPC theory into account, which I'm still not 100% sold on, Jax seems like he has it together more than anyone else there. He may be a total douchebag who has no regard for the feelings of others as long as he can feel good, but that's the thing. He's always looking for ways to make himself happy, which is a good way to keep the mind occupied and not have to worry about abstraction. It doesn't really feel like he uses the adventures just as a method of keeping his mind off of finding a way home. He genuinely tries to make the most out of these adventures when he can, even if it's twisted. Episode 2 made this especially clear.
Love to help you again sometime, bye!
I'm taking quite a shot in the dark here, but with Goosework saying Jax is going to be getting, into even worse behavior the more the series goes on, what if he ends up being a reason for another character to abstract? It was never specified the only way a character could lose their sanity to the point where they would abstract was only trying to find a way home. I've been under the assumption they just have to lose their minds from something. It just happened to be the exit door in Kaufmo's case. The question is, are they planning on making Jax that much of a dickhead to the point where he could cause the abstraction of another character? Maybe. I'm not super sold on that idea myself, despite me thinking it up. I just figured I would, throw it out there anyway for funsies. The fourth most likely to abstract, I think, is going to be Zubel. Not gonna lie, I wasn't really sure where to put them because even after episode 2, it feels like they're getting the least attention out of any other formerly human character. Not just from a development perspective, but screen time overall. Zubel is basically the only character who actively tries to avoid the adventures that Kane wants them to participate in. You'd think that someone like Zubel, who never spends time on these keep your mind occupied adventures, would start to lose their sanity just spending most of their time alone in the circus, yet that doesn't really seem to be the case. They seem to be totally fine. Yeah, they can be a bit grouchy and irritable, but they've never given the impression of any kind of mental instability. Even still, Zubel doesn't seem to be completely closed off from everything. They still participated in Kaufmo's funeral and acted pretty well welcoming towards Pomy and the pilot as opposed to Jax. Considering they've been in the circus the least amount of time right ahead of Pomy and seem to have it, sewed together seems very telling. I could even see the argument of them being less likely to abstract than Jax, but Jax has still been shown to actually get some enjoyment from his time there, while Zubel seems to just be coasting along for the ride and somehow staying sane while doing so. The way I see it, someone who's just coasting along seems more likely to get sad/mentally unstable than someone who's enjoying themselves all the time. Obviously, not everything is, all black and white in that instance. It's just that we're only 2 episodes in, so it's kind of hard to not look at it any other way without grasping at straws for other crackpot reasons. I'm gonna put Gangle as the 3rd most likely to abstract. She's another weird one in the sense that the way the show portrays her mental state is through her masks. Like, if she has the comedy mask on, she'll stay optimistic and happy. But if it breaks, she'll be sad until the comedy one gets repaired again. These are her only 2 masks as well, so there's no angry mask she wears or anything right now. Her comedy mask breaking during the early parts of the episode seems to be a running gag now, at least for the time being, meaning we've seen more of her sad self than her happy self. If that continues and she's just sad basically all the time while constantly getting pushed around mainly by Jax, that could be what leads to her breaking point. Or at least be part of the reason she starts to lose it. Jax pushes everyone around, but it does feel like she gets it the worst with how passive she is in her tragedy mask state. She really couldn't catch a break in episode 2.
I blame you for this.
Maybe this is a controversial take, but I'm putting Kinger at the 2nd most likely to abstract. Some probably think he should be number 1, which is fair, but just hear me out for a sec. Kinger is similar to Gangle in a sense where his mental state is kind of played off for jokes a lot of the time. He's been there the longest and is even stated by other characters how mentally unstable he is. Hell, even Zubel said at the end of the pilot they thought Kinger would be the most likely to abstract next and not Kaufmo. Kinger is very unpredictable. He can go from giving genuinely down-to-earth advice, like when he comforted Ratha about her trying to befriend Pomy towards the end of episode 2, then proceed to start doing this a few seconds later for literally no reason. It's hilarious, but simultaneously makes him an incredibly tough character to figure out on what his future roles are going to be. Part of me thinks someone like Kinger is being shown as so overly insane at times to subvert expectations on who's actually going to abstract next. The whole Kaufmo thing and Kinger being sane enough to participate in Kaufmo's funeral service may support this idea. However, I could also see a character like Kinger being axed for comedic purposes the same way Gummy Goo was. Gummy Goo had an entire reality-shattering experience and had to be talked off a ledge by Pomy, with her only solution of getting him motivated to live again was to bring him back to the circus. In the moment, it's like, wow, that's awesome. This little candy boy doesn't have to wallow in existential dread and has a second chance in a new life. Haha, just kidding. Kane makes him explode and we may never see him again. But I won't deny the other possibility of Kinger abstracting in a more serious manner. There's been theories going around that this unnamed Queen Chess Piece character that was on one of the doors is connected to Kinger in some way before she potentially abstracted herself, her death potentially serving as the reason why Kinger is always so on the edge to begin with. Perhaps that character will be brought up later on because it feels almost too perfect for those two to look so similar when none of those other previous door characters share any other close physical traits with the current members. Very curious to see what they decide to do with Kinger because he's probably my 2nd favorite character. With my favorite, of course, being Ratha, and the character I believed is the most likely to abstract next. The thing about Ratha is she's the most humanized character in the show besides Pomy. She's incredibly self-aware with how the circus works, what she has to do to keep her mind in check, and has been there the 2nd longest right behind Kinger, acting as a big sister type character to Pomy in particular. Besides Gummy Goo, Pomy and Ratha's relationship feels closer than any of the other characters Pomy's interacted with. Ratha genuinely cares about her well-being and wants their friendship to grow and, look after Pomy. The thing is, I could see all of these traits coming back to bite her in the ass depending on what kind of situation she's put in later on. Ratha abstracting would be the perfect way to test Pomy's resolve in this digital world. The person she became closest to, looked after her the most, and helped her realize she's not alone in the fight, ended up biting the dust herself. The amount of hell Pomy, the rest of the crew actually, since all of them besides Jack seem to be relatively close with her, and even the fandom would be going through, would be insane. She really feels like the glue that holds this group together right now. Yet it could lead to some very interesting arcs for Pomy's mental growth or set up a way to reverse abstraction as a whole if that can be possible down the line. Or at the very least, if it can't be undone, just allow the rest of the characters and Pomy to keep moving forward just to avenge Ratha in a sense. Man, I cannot wait for none of this to be accurate in even the slightest ways possible so people can clown me for it. Just start calling me VG Kaufmo at this point, might as well. Let me know in the comments who you think is the most likely to abstract next in the Amazing Digital Circus. I would love to know if your orders differ from the ones I presented here. But don't be a stranger to hitting that like button down below if you enjoyed the video, and thank you again to London Morse for your support on the Patreon page. It really does mean the world to me. But for now, I will see you guys next time. Peace out, take care, bye-bye. Bye.